Picture the most Los Angeles thing ever. Palm trees, private jets, a shiny new arena, and a franchise that swears it does everything the right way. Now picture a bank wire hitting an account tied to a collapsing green company just in time to cover a star player's 8-figure endorsement installment. An endorsement the league office says it didn't even know existed.
I'd frankly never heard of the company Aspiration before, and I'd never heard a whiff of anything around an endorsement deal with Kawhi.
That's not a streaming drama. That's the mess the Clippers are wading through right now.
DEA 88 Investments LP chose to invest that precise amount while this company was basically sinking into the ocean. And it turned out to be a man named Dennis.
And every new breadcrumb makes it look less like a quirky side story and more like a roadmap to the league office's door. Here's the quick refresher if you've only seen the headlines. A venture called Aspiration pitched itself as an eco-bank meets impact brand, raised eye-watering money, and signed sparkling names. Buried under the sizzle, a package reportedly worth about $48 million for Kawhi Leonard that required almost no public-facing activation. No ads you remember, no campaigns you can quote, just contractual obligations paid like clockwork until the cash ran out. While that ship was taken on water, a wire lands from an entity called DEA 88 Investments. Days later, Kawhi's scheduled payment clears. On the very same day, a big chunk of Aspiration's staff gets pink slips. If your eyebrows touched your hairline, you're not alone. Why does that wire matter? Because the listed owner behind DEA 88 isn't a random tech bro. It's Dennis Wong, a minority owner of the Clippers and a longtime confidant of Steve Ballmer. He's not some distant investor you need binoculars to find at a game. He's close enough to count the laces on the game ball from his seat. Tie that to the fact that Ballmer himself had previously pumped tens of millions into the same company, and you've got more than smoke. You've got soot footprints walking across the salary cap carpet. Let's slow the tape and trace the beats, because the sequence screams motive and method. The endorsement, per filings and sources, was heavy by any influencer standard and curiously quiet by any marketing standard. It also contained a team-linked condition. Payments would cease if the player departed the Clippers. Convenient? Uncomfortably. The company tanks, can't meet a scheduled payout, and suddenly, an affiliate tied to a Clippers owner supplies almost the exact amount needed. Within 9 days, the player's money goes out the door, and the company trims payroll to stay breathing. If this were a heist movie, the editor would cut to a whiteboard with arrows and red string. Now lay that timeline next to a few choice comments that landed with the subtlety of a kettlebell. The commissioner, pressed on how the league evaluates evidence, didn't promise a Perry Mason smoking gun memo. He talked about the total picture.
People talk about a smoking gun. That's obviously circumstantial. It means the gun is still smoking. It must have recently fired.
How timing, money flows, and relationships can form an equally compelling case when the email subject line doesn't say, "Let's evade the cap, reply all." He also emphasized that the league isn't a court, which is bureaucratic speak for, our punishments don't have to meet a jury's standard. Translation: if the NBA believes an end-around was executed, it doesn't need a notarized confession to swing a hammer. That puts the Clippers' explanations under a floodlight. Ballmer said he was duped by Aspiration, that the whole thing was a con. Maybe parts of it were. Failing startups do desperate things, but it strains belief that the most resourced owner in sports, with investigators, lawyers, and an enterprise risk radar inherited from the highest corporate altitude, could be blindsided to the tune of tens of millions, while a parallel payment structure to his star played out inside the same corporate shell. These optics aren't merely awkward. They look like a Venn diagram where team interests, outside sponsors, and player compensation overlapped so perfectly you could draw a target. If you're wondering whether the league has ever nuked a team for pay-to-play shenanigans, the Timberwolves once lost a mountain of draft picks for an under-the-table agreement with Joe Smith, basically a time-shifted bag of money. This situation threatens a higher floor. When a max player can't be paid more by his team under cap rules, the only way to goose take-home is with third-party money. If that third party is funded by ownership's orbit, it's not a wink. It's a waltz around the CBA. And unlike garden variety tampering or, hey, don't leak this recruitment, the dollar signs here dwarf the usual slap-on-the-wrist fines. Some around the league are whispering the part no one wants to say into a microphone. If this was the blueprint for keeping a star, have other teams, or their friends in the sponsor suite, tried similar side doors? That's the nightmare for every governor. The salary cap isn't just about parity. It's the bedrock of franchise valuation. If fans and financiers think the cap is just a soft suggestion for those with the right set of LLCs, you don't just get an unfair team, you get an unsafe asset. The Clippers line has been consistent. We introduced a sponsor to a player, which is allowed. We didn't instruct anyone to pay him. We were conned alongside everyone else. The issue is no longer whether sponsors can meet players. Of course they can. The issue is whether an introduction became an instrument, one wrapped in sustainability ribbon and funded, when necessary, by a check from the team's ownership tree. Even if you grant that Ballmer didn't mastermind anything, the proximity alone is enough to trigger the league's allergy to even the appearance of cap evasion. Two details deep in the shadows. First, this wasn't a well-publicized star endorsement. This was practically invisible. If you're paying a premium for a face of your brand, silence is a weird marketing strategy. Second, a family link. Public employment records point to Wong's daughter working at Aspiration during the relevant period. It's hard to argue ignorance about a company's death spiral when someone at your dinner table can quote the latest headcount. Zoom out. What's the league likely to do? The commissioner telegraphed broad powers. That can mean fines, suspensions, lost picks, voided contracts in extreme cases, or, if they really believe the integrity fence got sawed through, something even more dramatic. Would they ever push out an owner over circumstantial evidence? That's the thermonuclear option. But remember, the NBA doesn't need courtroom proof to impose basketball penalties. It needs conviction that the system was gamed and the will to defend the system. You can see why that will might be unusually strong this time. Other front offices already griped about competing against ghost budgets, those off-cap sponsor packages that magically orbit certain markets. Toronto's brass complained years ago that out-of-bounds asks came across their desk during Kawhi's free agency. The Lakers reportedly had lines they would not cross. If a competitor found a workaround by routing cash through a smiling third party, what message does it send to the teams that took the rules literally and took the on-court L? There's also the public trust part. If fans start believing star destinations are decided in boardrooms rather than locker rooms, you don't just lose fair play points. You lose the drama the NBA sells. The Knicks' miracle discount from their best player already spawned "that seems generous" comments around the league. Now everyone's side-eyeing every below-market deal and every unusual sponsor tie-in. That's why this Clippers saga feels bigger than one franchise's headache. It's a credibility exam for the entire ecosystem. Let's bounce to the practical consequences if the league decides this crossed the line. At minimum, you'd expect draft capital to vaporize. The NBA historically loves to take future firsts when it feels a message must land with a thud. More severe, a mega fine that hurts even a bottomless wallet. Most severe, a voided deal, which would throw the roster into chaos and set off a Midsummerland rush. Even whispering about an owner-level reckoning puts every other board member on alert. They'll want a punishment stiff enough to deter copycats, but not so scalding that it invites mutually assured destruction if more stones get overturned. Now, fairness alert. Could there be a world where this really is a fraternity of bad luck? Investors fooled by a fake green pitch, a well-meaning intro gone sideways, a minority owner choosing a Hail Mary to rescue a portfolio position and the timing just looks awful? Sure. But the confluence of events, unknown mega endorsement, team contingent clause, ownership-adjacent rescue money arriving just before a player's payday and just before layoffs, doesn't scream coincidence. It whispers coordination, even if no one wrote the plan down. There's also the human side for the locker room. Players talk. Agents talk louder. If this snowballs into suspicions or contract turmoil, the ripple hits a team trying to sell a brand new arena as a new era. 2 stars, one of the best spacing guards in the league, a coach who loves matchup chess, becomes a cap sheet jigsaw puzzle with pieces missing. For a franchise that spent a decade trying to rebrand away from most Clippers thing ever, you couldn't script a more Clippers thing. Real talk, the folks in New York know whatever they do here will set precedent. Hit too soft, you open a market for sneaky subsidy. Hit too hard without airtight findings, you risk a legal fight that drags and drags. But the one thing they can't do is shrug. The cap has to mean something or it means nothing. There's no comfortable middle where you say, don't do this again, when 40+ million changed hands in the shadows and a teammate's boss's wire paid the freight. What about the "but other teams do sketchy sponsor stuff" argument? That might be exactly why this case goes heavy. To stop the spread, you quarantine the clearest instance. Think about roadside speed traps. The car that gets pulled over is never the only one speeding. It's the only one going fast enough, long enough, in front of a squad car. This wire trail is a siren blaring. None of this guarantees a guillotine. The league will pull phone records, pore over emails, shake the tree for cooperating witnesses, and stress test the timeline. But if the facts hold, secret mega endorsement with team-linked strings, last-second wire from ownership orbit plugging a payment hole, layoffs punctuating the transfer, it's hard to see a world where the NBA throws a traffic cone at it and moves on. Don't want a headline that tells every other front office, "Don't you dare." And if you're a fan wondering why you should care beyond the rubberneck drama, here's the simple reason. The magic trick that makes the NBA fun is that the little teams can dream if they draft right and deal right. The minute it becomes widely accepted that the real game happens off the balance sheet, the dream is gone. You don't argue about rotations and schemes. You argue about accountants and shell companies. That's not sports. That's corporate governance cosplay with scoreboards. So yes, this is uncomfortable. It's messy. It's going to get messier before it gets clean. But the alternative is pretending the timing, the wires, and the whispers are random static. Nobody buys that. Not rival GMs, not agents, not the office league, and definitely not the fans who are unexpectedly fluent in bankruptcy dockets now. If there's an innocent explanation, let it see daylight. If not, strap in. The offseason's most important box score might be printed on league letterhead, not hardwood.